but eventually Wall Street realized that, hey, these trusts need to be broken up. And they came to accept it as being a fact of American life. Oh yeah, one of the unions is the UMW, United Mine Workers. The United Mine Workers went on strike one day. It was in the summertime and people didn't notice it first, but then winter was coming along. And the mine workers and management would not settle. And finally Roosevelt stepped in and said, I'm going to put the Army to work in the mines, and I'm going to work on the mines without any regard to either management or labor. When he threatened this, management and labor got together and solved their differences and then went back to work. And a lot of people criticize the president. Now today, no president can get away with that. But Roosevelt tried it and got away with it because, I mean, the country wasn't ready. Hey, you know, what do we do about this? I mean, the country wasn't ready for it. But he threatened to use the Army to, see, winter was coming on and people would freeze without the cold. Your book shows a picture of beaker boys, or boys working the coal mines. And the boys had to pick rocks and impurities from the mine coal. Anyway, another term that came about was the term muckrakers. Muckrakers were persons who looked for trouble or looked for bad deeds and would publish what they saw wrong. Muckraker. Muckraker the word muck means mud. It's a person who looks for all the dirt in society and tries to fix it. Most are publishing articles in the newspaper about how bad things are in a certain place and calling it, shining a light, you might say, on that problem. And a lot of times the problem gets fixed.
So he's a person who looked for dirt in the company.
Yeah, he was not the first person to look for dirt, but actually he didn't do it so much himself as other people in his time would go around looking for dirt, not just Roosevelt, but other people. And these people were called muckrakers. When I was in high school, our teacher wanted someone to write a term paper on this muckraking a lost art. I did not choose that topic, but we don't have it today. To make it long, we don't use that term today. Even though we do find people looking for things that are wrong, the most recent being the immigrant children being separated from their parents, and they'll shine a bright light on it, and maybe get it fixed and maybe not. But anyway.
So the news people are the
The muckrakers were news people. Another thing they did was they practiced what's called yellow journalism. I must mention that yellow journalism was where you used sensational journalism. They didn't just report, but yellow journalism was designed to fire up people's emotions. And a lot of these stories about kids being separated from their parents is nothing but yellow journalism.
All the facts aren't given. That's why. All the facts are not given by the media.
No, they're not. In fact, Donald Trump has called it fake news all the time. I will say this now, on behalf of Donald Trump's, I wish it was for his own good. I wish he learned to control his tongue. I do. I mean, some of the stuff he has said is plainly not necessary. And as I saw someone looking out back, did have any ever heard anything resembles thunder outside?
It sounds like rain.
That's how we look back. I'm like, is it raining? But I thought
Well,
it was
it's
the air
supposed to.
conditioning.
They did give
Still
us
fireworks?
No, I was just sad. Some of you are looking behind, and I'm a little bit hard of hearing. So.
I heard something. Might be the air conditioning. But I
Yeah,
heard
it's not rain.
Anyway, yeah, two pitches I have trouble with in my hearing. My wife's voice and my own talk. Anyway, now, another thing Roosevelt did in the field of foreign affairs, he's famous for the saying, speak softly but carry a big stick. So he used big stick diplomacy, particularly in Latin America. And in the case of Latin America, Colombia owned the Panama region. And the Panama, if you look on the map, page 551, it's a really narrow isthmus, a narrow strip of land. And a lot of persons want to build a canal. across the mountains. Now, if you know anything about building a canal across mountains, yes, it can be done. What you do is you use locks. In other words, like say, here's the mountain, and here's the ocean here, and here's the ocean here. You build a waterway here and build a lock here. Get to the next level and build a lock here, and each lock raises a ship. Then when the ship gets to a certain height, it starts going down by way of locks. Now this was not like the Suez Canal, which is nothing but a wide, deep ditch. The Panama Canal involved going over a mountain and back down. Well, a problem building the Panama Canal was a disease called yellow fever. When a man named Walter Reed discovered that mosquitoes spread yellow fever, so they went in with a bunch of oil and put oil on all the water, and the oil kept the mosquito larvae from growing up. Actually, it suffocated mosquito larvae, and made it possible then for the work on the canal to resume to where the workers would not get mosquito bit. And Walter Reed, by the way, was the name of the doctor who discovered that yellow fever was spread mosquitoes. Anyway, Theodore Roosevelt encouraged a rebellion among Panama, and Panama broke away from Colombia. And then Roosevelt bragged, I took Panama. And Roosevelt had the canal dug. Well, the people, some Americans felt like Colombia was done wrong, so years later, the United States gave Colombia $25 million, which was a lot of money at that time. But anyway, Roosevelt showed no conscience. He said it was necessary for progress, so he had the canal, Panama Canal built.
So he the reason why our rivers and stuff got so black, right?
What's
They
that?
poured all that oil.
Yeah, he was the reason. They put all the oil in the waters. I mean, well, that's how to keep mosquitoes down, you need to, when it rains, throw out all your pans and anything, or garbage cans, anything that collects water. Dump it out. See, my garbage collector will not collect the tree limbs. And I have a bunch of trees, so what I have to do is I want to carry the tree limbs to dump myself. But in the meantime, those garbage cans will collect water when it rains. So yesterday, we had rain that dumped the water out. The garbage, because that water will carry mosquitoes. And mosquito larvae. And when you dump it out, the mosquito larvae, so mosquitoes can have babies. But anyway, also something else, mosquitoes cannot thrive in agitated coastal state. So you agitate the water, and that does a lot for Big Stick. Roosevelt oftentimes sent troops into Latin America. Now this wound up getting us, making the Latin Americans very upset at us. When there was trouble in Latin America and that trouble threatened our economy, like a dictator would take over and we didn't like, we'd move troops down into Latin America and quell the rebellion. This was his big stick. Now, Roosevelt carried a big stick policy. His successor, Taft, said, no, let's use dollars. So he just called it dollar diplomacy. But then moving on, the next Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, said, we're going to be good neighbors. And he advocated a good neighbor policy, which was great because when World War I and II broke out, Latin America did not side with our enemies. I'll have more to say about that later, but particularly World War II, Latin America wound up siding with us against Germany. All right, the next president after Roosevelt was William Howard Taft. William Howard Taft was an Ohioan, not from the area. But anyway, his presidency was troubled by the strong shed of Roosevelt. Also, he was not Roosevelt. It was said when William Howard Taft became president, one of the women told him, said, now, you're not going to find this job as easy as Theodore Roosevelt. He was suited for it, you're not. I told him quite frankly. Taft had 4 years in office, and during that time, well, Roosevelt first went on the safari, and then came back and was told, the man you left in charge, he's under the haystack fast asleep, like little people. He's under the haystack fast asleep. Roosevelt then began to try to manipulate Taft. Taft and Roosevelt broke up. But that's... Also, Taft was hurt by the issue that's plaguing Trump right now, the tariff issue. Roosevelt said to Taft, now leave the tariff alone. It'll solve itself eventually. Just leave that issue alone. Well, instead, Taft sent a tariff bill to Congress. And by the time Congress had changed it, it was nothing like Taft sent. Taft signed it anyway, when by all rights he should have said, hey, now this is not what I asked for, and I'm not gonna sign it, and send it back to him. Instead he signed it, and he called it the best tariff he ever had, by any account. It was the worst tariff in history. But he called it better. I remember my 8th grade, no, not 8th, but my teacher in high school, Mr. McGuire, said, you don't take something that's the worst and call it the best. Basically, that's what Taft did to the tariff, the worst tariff we ever had, and called it the best. The tariff was highly inconsistent. I mean, the same product, but they charge this much in this place and this much in that place. A few other bad things about it. And Roosevelt did not like that in the least, to say the least. Again, Roosevelt wouldn't tackle it. All right. Which brings us up to Woodrow Wilson. Be back, folk, at 25.
So, now, question.
Yeah.
What, speaking of tariffs, what
Yeah.
gives a government the right to tax me on my income?
Okay.
Because-
Okay, yeah, you're talking about
There
income,
is
now,
no
the income
law
tax.
about- there's no
Okay,
law.
the income tax is not the tariff. The income tax is something different. The tariff is where you tax goods coming out of the country in. Now, the Constitution and all other countries now explicitly forbid taxes on exports. You don't tax goods going out. The other country might do it. You tax goods coming in. Now, the right the government has to do that is simply, and like, until the income tax, there was no other way the government had to get money.
Yeah, but I'm saying today's day and age, I have ways to get money. My
Oh, all
question is,
right, now, what
they-
gives them the right to tax income?
Because technically there is no single law that states or dictates that I have to pay income on my, taxes on my income.
The 17th Amendment, I believe. It's either the 16th or 17th Amendments do say that the government has the right to tax income. It's there. It's either the
It's not a
16th or
law.
17th. It's a constitutional amendment, which is a. I mean, my dad would complain that, well, that shouldn't be, but it's there. Okay, I'll be back.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it is there?
Yeah.
Page?
It's the appendix, A23.
A23. There we go. Which one is it?
16th.
Then what is the Constitution if we could just change what we don't like about it? I'm not feeling confident about this test, but you said it's going to be like 40 questions. I think the final exam is 75, and I have no idea how I'm remembering history. I honestly, like, I can't remember
You
history.
have extra stamp on. Try to order them.
Did we get that from today?
I don't know. Mine's still.
Did we need one the other two tests?
Well, it's for the final exam. It's a little slow. I wish you needed one, but
For the final exam, not for today, though. There's not the final exam.
I don't think.
No, you buy them at the library. They're $1.93 for a pack of
Yeah,
six.
they have them in the vending machine too.
Oh.
They're like $2.
I'm saying I have a spare one if you need, but they're like $2 a pack, or like 6.
Oh.
But I don't think we're gonna need one for today, for that's now. I sure as hell don't know. And I guess what? You know what? I left it at home. I don't even have one myself.
So I just find the test.
Honestly, if someone wants to like take my test for me, like you can do it, we'll just pass papers and then I'll just sign at the end. Can someone please do that? I'm not feeling confident.
What was the 10th chapter? That was,
I didn't even study the 10th chapter. Like, I just did what we did last week. Chapter 12 through 18. I'm like, freaking.
I didn't do 10 or 11.
I'm like, I felt over 10 or 11.
It's so much to
It
study.
is. Like,
All those chapters, like, I'd rather just have a test last week.
But last week there was no test.
I know, I'd rather we did. Rather than have to squeeze all these chapters. Now, that's what, 9 chapters?
But it's gonna be like 3 or 4 questions per chapter. It's not gonna be.
Yeah, but as far as studying, you don't know what to
Yeah.
study, so you're studying the whole chapter. But chapter 10 and 11 seems pretty.
13 was pretty easy.
So Grandma Moses was a separate person and we're both slave women. Okay, good to know. It's COLT. That's the name of the company. All it makes them for is they named a pistol called a 45, which shoots a 45 caliber weapon.
I got that.
But-
Yeah. I just left it as is.
Just so you know, it's called COLT.
I put Coke like the Coca-Cola.
I was thinking.
No, that happens.
Beer, 45. Isn't there a beer called Colt 45?
Colt is the name of the company that makes the weapon. The weapon itself is a 45 caliber weapon. It's a-
Oh, okay, so it's like a brand.
The
Yeah.
brand is Colt 45. I mean,
Okay.
there are other companies like Smith and Wesson 45. And
Right, okay.
all that, they all make different, weapons.
Chapter 12 in there?
No, I don't think I did. Oh, yeah, I did.
You have, like,
It's just
one
one.
small-
It's just one thing.
The
It's
North
just
had
one.
industrial and factories. That's what he wrote.
Yeah, that's it.
They became industrial and they had factories.
They had
Yeah.
11.
Haiti had a successful rebellion led by
That's
Toussaint
how he
Louverture.
murdered 12.
Once Dominican, right? Okay. The next page, I'm good. Nat Turner was. So Nat Turner was the preacher that thought God came to him.
Yeah, he started killing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no John Brown. No him, because he's gonna definitely put him on there.
Okay, John Brown, anti-slave, who believes the slave should be free, he kills slave owners. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. No. He was tried for treason, but was he actually convicted of treason?
Yeah, he was hung.
He was
Wait,
hung.
wasn't Nat
Yeah.
Turner hung?
He probably
They
was,
probably
but John
was,
Brown was a
everybody
white
was hung
man.
back then.
John Brown. Okay.
His family was also hung, I believe, but they didn't hang all his kids because most of his kids had left the house already.
Right, that's what he said when I watched it. I didn't watch like the last 45 minutes of his
And there was
lecture
like
last
5 videos of the lecture.
He's like, why is he putting one lecture?
That's how he used to. He used to put them just in one video.
He did it for like the first class, and then after that he started splitting them up. And he didn't
And
even
then I
post
want
2
to
weeks
ask
ago.
him to move things.
Move the
because-
camera?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I missed half the stuff that was on the other side of the board, and I couldn't write it down. The main purpose of the camera is because a lot of conflict about what he talks about, and he puts it up there so that if anything is said that doesn't offend anybody or doesn't, he can have proof saying, look, this is what I said, whatever. It's not because he puts it up there because, for this. It's really just to protect him in case anything is said. Right, 13 gave the slaves
13,
freedom,
14, and 15.
14th gave the citizenship,
Civil rights.
15th gave, right. Those were the Civil Rights Amendments,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but they found a bunch of loopholes.
Mhm.
It was 15. Because it said you can't discriminate against race and it's for literacy.
Well, Lincoln got 40%, not including, the South.
That didn't include, he got 40% of the popular vote. That included everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, his name was not on the ballot in a lot of southern states.
Yeah.
Because
That was,
they didn't know that. They didn't have a way to
Well,
get his name on the ballot.
they knew he was running. Everybody knew he was running. But the southern people could not vote for him unless they were written his name in, but they hardly did. What you asked about taxes. Taxes is the way we get our roads, our bridges, and our...
Yeah, but they do a double tax. They tax me when I go and buy things in the store, and they tax me when I
Okay.
get my income.
Our taxing, we're
If that's
taxed
a
at
taxation
least,
without representation, what
at
is?
least anywhere from 1/4 to 1/3 of income, thanks to all this layers. I mean, it's your income tax, your sales tax, and whatever else there's a tax on, dividend tax, inheritance tax,
Yeah, what do they need to be so many taxes?
because the government is trying to feed its poor. It's a lot.
But again, how is it the government's responsibility?
That
The
I agree
people's
with.
themselves' responsibility. That's what
That
I
I
think for.
agree
It's not the
with.
government.
Nevertheless,
It's we take advantage of our government today. We shouldn't be taking
here's
advantage.
what, here's what somebody said to this day, nobody knows who said it. He said, democracy will work till the common people find out they can dip their hand in the public pot. Our common people are dipping their hand in the public pot. And when Mitt Romney lost the election in 2012, he said, you can't beat Santa Claus. In other words, it's a lot of what people vote for what they'll receive, never mind what they have to pay for. It's the way it is. I mean, it's not the way things ought to be, it's just the way things are. All right, let's see. Oh, boy, let me check some here.
At 2:25, we have it done?
Yes, it's only two.
Okay, okay. No, wait a minute, I gotta check.
Are you questioning?
Okay, yeah, all right. By the way, there is no rain outside.
Yeah.
That's not to say there won't be. I mean, the weatherman gives us pretty 50-50 chance, I believe. There is no rain outside.
I went to Stone Mountain yesterday, my legs are killing me.
Storm Mountain? Oh, yeah.
How was it? Did you see light?
No, we just walked up the mountain.
I have done that several times. The last time I did it, though, it wore me to, I don't think I'll ever do it again. I was with this group, but I think I'm just gonna say next time I'm with a group, you guys climb this thing. You reach a certain point where the things you remember doing, you no longer can do. All right. Woodrow Wilson, well, let's see. Well, I'll give my 3 minutes. Woodrow Wilson goes down in some circles as one of the greatest presidents we ever had.
Are we on 20?
I'm looking now on page 554 in our book. Woodrow Wilson and progressivism and high tide. Now, how he got to be president? All right, the story goes like this. Even in 1912, the Democrats could not find a man who was free from taint and corruption, except for Wilson. Now, Wilson got to be president of Princeton, and I had a 4th grade teacher who said, now, this shows what you can do if you try. I know, folks, some of us will never get to be president of Princeton because it's like making a Major League Baseball team. Unless you're born with a talent, you can forget it. If you want to argue with that, go ahead. You've got to be born with it. And in Wilson's case, he was born with the aptitude. But he got to be president of Princeton. His faculty did not like him, so they wound up getting rid of him, making him governor of New Jersey. In New Jersey, he was constantly pushing for change. In New Jersey, they didn't like him. Nevertheless, he was a man who was free from moral issues and free from money issues. I mean, bad money. Free from crooked, basically he was free from criminal acts. So a bunch of people got together in a smoke-filled room. and decided, hey, we'll control him, we'll pick him. Now, this has been true of a lot of leaders down through history. When France picked Napoleon, they thought we'll pick a man and we'll control him once he gets in office. And I've heard that about Adolf Hitler. They said, we'll pick Adolf Hitler, and once he's in office, we'll tell him what to do. And Hitler said to all of his advisors, get out of my way, I'm going to do what I want to do. Wilson did the same thing, by the way. But anyway, they picked him in a smoke-filled room, and he got to be president because the two former friends, Roosevelt and Taft, split. Taft got the nomination for the Republican Party. Roosevelt said, that's a cheat, you're cheated, and I've been cheated. And he quoted, thou shalt not steal, in other words, the, let's see, the fifth command, no, the sixth commandment. Thou shalt not
I
steal.
think no, don't
Yeah.
steal. It's
Do not, in other words, but he had stolen himself, the election about 8 years earlier. But anyway, he formed his own party. So he formed a third party, and that meant that Wilson, with only about the same way Lake, with about 40% of the vote, got to be president because the Republicans split their vote. But the Republicans, I mean, Roosevelt got more votes than Taft, but every vote that Roosevelt got was a vote for Wilson, basically. And vote, now, my second daughter does not understand this. She would not vote for any of the major candidates. She voted for one of these two, which I don't remember which one, some woman, I believe, who was running for president also. And we tried to tell her, listen, this is what happened in the election of 1992 when 15% of the country voted for Ross Perot, and a vote for Ross Perot turned out to be a vote for Bill Clinton. Because all of Ross Perot's voters came from George Bush, and Bill Clinton still got his voters. So when you vote for someone like that, you're voting for the bad person usually. But anyway, the Republicans split their vote. Wilson got to be president. He was what you call a minority president, who never got the majority of votes. But he got the big majority of electoral votes. Once in office, he began reforming right away. Again, what kind of a man was he? Well, he was a very, very religious man. His father had been a preacher in a church here in Georgia. Wilson had ties to Georgia, by the way. Wilson was a Southerner. On the night of the inaugural ball, he canceled the inaugural ball to hold a religious service, the only president, I believe, to do so. But he had some issues. All right, I'll jump ahead of the story a little bit. He went to Europe, and a young Vietnamese bellboy approached him in Europe and said, will you please help me? My country is being controlled by France, and we want to be independent of France. Wilson said, I'm going to free on you too, in effect. So this Vietnamese bellboy went to Moscow and got the Russians. This Vietnamese bellboy turned out later to be Ho Chi Minh. And my generation paid the full price for that mistake. 50,000 of men of my generation were killed. If Woodrow Wilson had paid more attention to this young bellboy, he might have gotten this young bellboy on our side. This young bellboy turned out to became the leader of Vietnam. You all probably heard of Ho Chi Minh. He wound up winning the only war that was ever won against the United States. Ho Chi Minh. Anyway, also Woodrow Wilson had a contentious attitude toward the working man. Just give the working man a lot of hard work to keep his mind off his mind and just keep him busy. Just work until you. And in the meantime, we'll do all the thinking. We'll do. He's the only president we had who had a PhD. Yeah, he earned his PhD, and he got, like I say, he got to be president of Princeton University. The only president we had who was ever president of a university before he got to be president of the United States. And like he had done when he was president of the university, like he done when he was governor, he began reforming immediately, trying to change things. And one of the things he reformed was a tariff, banking, and a trust. Now, the banking. If you go to I believe it's St. Simon's Island, right off the coast of Georgia, they can take you to a room and say, the big bankers of the country, the biggest tycoons in the country met here. And it's a room smaller than this classroom. And they met here, and they secretly planned the Federal Reserve System, which is still in operation. Now, I mentioned already how that George Washington signed a bank bill into law. This was something the founding fathers maybe never intended for to be a national bank. Well, Wilson got the Federal Reserve, and basically what he got with the Federal Reserve was he got control of the money in his country like no president before him had ever done. The idea was to try to keep us out of a depression. It has worked for the last 70 years, but folk, you wonder, I mean, what a lot of people believe